There are places on this Earth where the known rules seem to bend. Blank spots on the map, not of geography, but of understanding. For centuries, sailors and pilots have spoken of one such place, a swath of the deep Atlantic where the veil between our world and something else feels perilously thin. It is a place of sudden violent storms that appear in clear skies, of compasses that spin uselessly, and of disappearances so total, so absolute, that they defy all logic. They call it the Devil's Triangle. We know it as the Bermuda Triangle. It is not an official designation. You will not find its boundaries on any nautical chart published by the U.S. Board on Geographic Names. Yet, its legend is as real and as vast as the ocean itself. Roughly demarcated by points in Bermuda, Miami, and San Juan, Puerto Rico, this area of roughly 500,000 square miles has become a modern myth, a graveyard for ships and aircraft, and the epicenter of a mystery that has captivated and terrified the world for generations. The stories are the stuff of nightmares. Vessels found adrift with no crew, planes that radio for help and then cease to exist, and rescue missions that vanish while searching for the vanished. Over 75 aircraft and thousands of ships are said to have been claimed by its waters, leaving behind nothing but grieving families and a profound, unsettling question. Where did they go? The legend is not a new one. Whispers of strange occurrences in this region date back to the age of Christopher Columbus, who recorded bizarre compass readings and a strange hovering flame in his logbook as he sailed through the area. But the modern enigma, the one that cemented the triangle's place in the pantheon of the paranormal, was born in the clear, sunlit afternoon of December 5th, 1945. It is a story that encapsulates every chilling element of the triangle's reputation: experienced men, reliable machines, and a disappearance so complete it seems to mock the very concept of investigation. This is the story of Flight 19. The war was over. A victorious America was flexing its military might, and Naval Air Station Fort Lauderdale was a hub of activity, training the next generation of pilots. On that December afternoon, 5 TBM Avenger torpedo bombers were scheduled for a routine training exercise. These were not flimsy planes. They were robust, powerful aircraft, the workhorses of the Pacific Theater, known for their durability. On board were 14 men, a mix of seasoned instructors and promising students. Leading the mission, known by the call sign Fox Terre 28, was Lieutenant Charles Carroll Taylor, a veteran pilot with over 2,500 hours of flying time. The mission was simple: fly east from Florida, conduct bombing runs at a place called Hens and Chicken Shoals, fly north for a time, then turn southwest for the final leg back to base. It was a triangular route they had flown hundreds of times before. It should have been as routine as driving to the grocery store. At 2:10 p.m., the 5 planes roared to life and lifted off into the clear Florida sky. The weather was beautiful, the sea calm. For the first hour and a half, everything was normal. Then, around 4 p.m., the control tower at Fort Lauderdale picked up a transmission. It was Taylor, but his voice, usually calm and professional, was laced with confusion and anxiety. He was talking not to the tower, but to one of the other pilots in his squadron. "Both of my compasses are out, and I'm trying to find Fort Lauderdale, Florida," he said, the words crackling over the radio. "I am over land, but it's broken. I'm sure I'm in the Keys, but I don't know how far down." This was the first moment of profound strangeness. The Florida Keys are southwest of the Naval Air Station. Their flight plan should have had them far out over the Atlantic, to the east. For a veteran pilot like Taylor to be so completely and utterly lost was baffling. The senior flight instructor on the ground, Lieutenant Robert F. Cox, was airborne in another plane nearby and overheard the transmission. He established contact immediately. "This is Fox Terre 74, Cox radioed. "What is your trouble?" "Both of my compasses are out," Taylor repeated, his voice strained. "I'm trying to find Fort Lauderdale. I'm flying over a small island. I have no other landmark." Cox urged him to fly towards the sun, which in the late afternoon would set in the west and guide them back towards the Florida coast. But Taylor's response was chilling. "I don't know which way is west," he said. "Everything is wrong, strange. We can't be sure of any direction. Even the ocean doesn't look as it should." This last phrase, "even the ocean doesn't look as it should," has haunted investigators for decades. What did he mean? The pilots under his command, equally confused, were now audible in the background, their transmissions growing more frantic. They were suggesting their compasses were also malfunctioning. One pilot urged Taylor to let someone else take the lead, but Taylor, as the flight leader, refused. He was convinced they were over the Gulf of Mexico, having somehow flown west instead of east. Based on this fatal assumption, he made a decision. He ordered his flight to turn and fly east, deeper into the vast, empty expanse of the Atlantic Ocean, believing he was heading back towards Florida. On the ground, a frantic effort was underway. The Naval Air Station had triangulated their position, placing them somewhere east of the Florida coast, north of the Bahamas, exactly where they were supposed to be. But they couldn't convince Taylor of his true location. The radio signals began to fade in and out. The weather, which had been clear all day, was starting to turn. A storm was brewing. The final transmissions from Flight 19 are a portrait of escalating dread. The men were cold, their planes were running low on fuel, and their leader was hopelessly lost. In the background chatter, pilots could be heard discussing the possibility of ditching their planes in the sea. They would have to go down together. "All planes close up tight," Taylor ordered. "We'll have to ditch unless landfall. When the first plane drops below 10 gallons, we all go down together." Then came the last garbled message ever heard from Flight 19. It was a fragmented sentence, barely audible through the static, that seemed to suggest they were entering a bizarre phenomenon.
"Some radio operators thought they heard the words, 'entering whitewater. We are completely lost.'"
And then, silence. A profound, absolute silence that would never be broken. 5 military aircraft and 14 men had vanished from the sky. The response was immediate and massive. Before Flight 19 had even been declared officially lost, the Navy scrambled a search and rescue mission. 2 PBM Martin Mariner flying boats were dispatched to the squadron's last known position. These were huge, reliable aircraft, specifically designed for air-sea rescue. Equipped with the latest technology of the day, one of them, a Mariner designated Training 49, took off from the Banana River Naval Air Station at 7:27 p.m. with a 13-man crew. It radioed a routine position report at 7:30 p.m. It was never heard from again. A tanker, the SS Gaines Mills, was sailing through a storm in the same area that night. At around 7:50 p.m., the crew reported seeing a massive explosion in the sky. It appeared as a brilliant ball of fire, which burned for 10 minutes before falling into the sea. When they arrived at the location, they found a large oil slick and the smell of high-octane aviation fuel. But no wreckage, no bodies, no survivors. The Martin Mariners had a tragic nickname among Navy pilots: flying gas tanks. It was widely assumed that a spark had ignited fuel vapors and Training 49 had simply disintegrated in midair. So the mystery deepened. Not only had 5 Avenger bombers disappeared, but one of their rescuers had exploded, taking another 13 men with it. A total of 6 aircraft and 27 men were gone. The ensuing search was one of the largest in history. Hundreds of ships and aircraft from the Navy, Coast Guard, and Royal Air Force scoured over 300,000 square miles of ocean and coastline for 5 days. They found nothing. Not a single life raft, not a piece of floating debris, not an oil slick from the 5 Avengers. It was as if they had flown through a hole in the sky. The Navy's official board of inquiry was equally baffled. Unable to find a cause, their initial report blamed Lieutenant Taylor for causes or reasons unknown, citing his confusion and poor decision-making. But his family protested. Taylor was a veteran, a decorated pilot. How could he have become so disoriented? Under pressure, But the door to a modern legend had been flung wide open. Flight 19 became the foundational myth of the Bermuda Triangle. But it was far from the first or the last. Once the story captured the public imagination, people began looking back, connecting the dots between other strange disappearances in the region. One of the most haunting was the case of the USS Cyclops. In March 1918, during the height of World War I, this colossal Navy collier ship, over 540 feet long, set sail from Brazil bound for Baltimore. She was carrying over 10,000 tons of manganese ore and 306 crew and passengers. After a brief, unscheduled stop in Barbados, the Cyclops steamed out into the Atlantic and was never seen again. She sent no SOS, she reported no problems, she simply vanished. An exhaustive search found no trace of the massive vessel. President Woodrow Wilson himself said, "Only God and the sea know what happened to the great ship." The mystery was compounded when two of her sister ships, the Proteus and the Nereus, also vanished without a trace on the same routes during World War II. The post-war era of aviation brought a new string of disappearances. In January 1948, the Star Tiger, a British South American Airways Tudor 4 passenger plane, was on a flight to Bermuda. The weather was perfect. The last contact was a routine position report. The plane and its 31 passengers and crew disappeared. A year later, its sister plane, the Star Ariel, vanished under identical circumstances between Bermuda and Jamaica, with 20 people aboard. The official investigation into the incidents was damning for the aircraft's design, but could offer no definitive conclusion. The chief investigator, a man named Don Bennett, publicly stated he believed the disappearances were the result of some external force. The list goes on, a chilling litany of the lost. In 1954, a Navy Lockheed Constellation vanished, with 42 people aboard. In 1963, two brand-new KC-135 Stratotankers, the military version of the Boeing 707, flew out of Homestead Air Force Base in Florida, heading east. They flew into a clear day and disappeared from radar simultaneously. Again, a massive search found only scattered, minimal debris, not nearly enough to account for two enormous aircraft. The cases stretch into the modern era. In 2015, the American cargo ship SS El Faro, a 790-foot vessel equipped with modern navigation and communication systems, sailed from Jacksonville, Florida into the path of Hurricane Joaquin. While a hurricane is a known danger, the mystery lies in why an experienced captain with modern weather data would make such a choice. The ship's final communications revealed a struggle for survival against the storm, but its sinking was so swift and total that it left a trail of questions. Its wreckage. Over the years, theories have flourished, ranging from the mundane to the utterly fantastic, each attempting to shed light on the darkness that shrouds the triangle. The most pragmatic explanations focus on the unique and volatile nature of the region itself. The Bermuda Triangle is not a placid patch of ocean. It is a place of extreme and unpredictable natural phenomena. One of the leading scientific theories revolves around methane hydrates. The theory posits that the seafloor in this region contains vast, trapped reserves of methane gas, frozen into a kind of ice. If a shift in temperature or pressure were to destabilize these deposits, it could trigger a massive, catastrophic eruption of gas. This gas blowout would create a huge plume of bubbles, instantly and dramatically lowering the density of the water above it. A ship sailing into this frothing, aerated water would lose all buoyancy in seconds and sink like a stone, pulled straight to the bottom before a single distress call could be sent. Such an event could also, in theory, release a highly flammable cloud of methane into the air, which could be ignited by an aircraft's engine, causing an explosion with no warning. A potential explanation for what the crew of the SS Gaines Mills saw on the night Flight 19's rescuer disappeared. Another powerful natural force at play is the weather. The triangle is the birthplace of some of the world's most violent hurricanes and storms, which can form with terrifying speed. Compounding this is the Gulf Stream, a massive, powerful current that is essentially a warm water river flowing through the ocean. With surface velocities of up to 6 miles per hour, it can quickly disperse any wreckage from a crash, carrying it far from the search area before rescuers can arrive. This could explain why so many searches have found nothing. They were simply looking in the wrong place, hours too late. Furthermore, the region is known for rogue waves. Once thought to be mere sailors' tales, satellite imagery has confirmed the existence of these monstrous, solitary waves, sometimes reaching heights of over 100 feet. Such a wall of water could appear without warning and be capable of swamping even the largest supertankers, breaking them apart and sending them to the bottom in moments. Human error and mechanical failure are, of course, the most cited explanations by skeptics. The sea is unforgiving, and a single mistake can be fatal. In the case of Flight 19, many analysts now believe Lieutenant Taylor, who had recently transferred to Florida from Miami, may have become disoriented and mistaken the Bahamian Islands for the Florida Keys. Once this false idea was in his head, a form of cognitive dissonance may have prevented him from accepting the evidence that he was wrong. He trusted his flawed instinct over his instruments and the advice of his men, leading them all on a fatal course into the open ocean. For the Star Tiger and Star Ariel, the Tudor IV aircraft was known to have design flaws, including a faulty cabin heater located near hydraulic lines, which could have led to a catastrophic in-flight fire. For every mysterious disappearance, there is a plausible, if unproven, explanation rooted in simple, tragic reality. Then, there is the issue of magnetism. The Bermuda Triangle is one of only 2 places on Earth, the other being the Devil's Sea off the coast of Japan, where magnetic north and true geographic north align. This phenomenon is known to cause compasses to behave strangely. While modern GPS and inertial navigation systems have made this largely irrelevant for today's vessels, for pilots like Charles Taylor in 1945, relying on magnetic compasses, this anomaly could have been a source of profound confusion, adding another layer of disorientation to an already critical situation. But for many, these rational explanations feel incomplete. They fail to capture the sheer strangeness of the reports, the bizarre radio transmissions, the white water, the oceans that don't look as they should. This has opened the door to a world of more exotic and paranormal theories. The most popular of these fringe theories involves extraterrestrial activity. Proponents suggest that the triangle is a hotspot for UFOs, or more accurately, USOs, unidentified submerged objects. The theory posits that an alien presence has established an underwater base in the deep trenches of the region, and that ships and planes are being abducted for study or experimentation. Believers point to numerous pilot and sailor sightings of strange, fast-moving lights both in the sky and under the water in the triangle. The idea is that these advanced craft use powerful energy beams or tractor beams to disable and capture our vessels, explaining the lack of wreckage and the suddenness of the disappearances. Diving deeper into the realm of myth, some connect the Bermuda Triangle to the lost city of Atlantis. This theory, popularized by the psychic Edgar Cayce, claims that Atlantis was powered by massive energy crystals, and that these crystals now lie dormant on the ocean floor within the triangle. Periodically, they are said to activate, releasing bursts of powerful, uncontrolled energy that disrupt space-time and interfere with the electromagnetic systems of ships and planes, causing them to malfunction and vanish. Some have even gone so far as to claim that strange pyramidal structures have been detected on the seabed via sonar, potential evidence of these ancient Atlantean power stations. This leads to the most mind-bending theory of all, that the Bermuda Triangle is not a place where things are destroyed, but a place where things are transported. The idea of a time warp, a dimensional portal, or an electronic fog has been fueled by a handful of survivor accounts. The most famous is that of pilot Bruce Gernon, who claims that in 1970, he and his father flew into a bizarre #@meta, pause, sex .05 tunnel-shaped cloud while flying over the triangle. Inside this vortex, he says, the sky turned a sickly yellow-gray, his electronic and magnetic instruments went haywire, and he experienced a strange sense of weightlessness. When he finally emerged from the cloud, he found himself over Miami Beach, having covered a distance of 100 miles in just 3 minutes, a physical impossibility for his Beechcraft Bonanza airplane. He believes he flew through a time warp, or an electronically generated fog that distorts the fabric of space-time. While his story is anecdotal and impossible to verify, it speaks to the core of the triangle's deepest mystery, the feeling that the disappearances are not just about sinking, but about leaving our reality entirely. So, what is the truth? Is the Bermuda Triangle a paranormal vortex? A hunting ground for aliens? The resting place of Atlantean technology? Or is it simply a patch of ocean with a deadly combination of bad weather, powerful currents, and a history of human misfortune? Its reputation inflated by sensationalist writers and a public hungry for mystery. The answer, unsatisfyingly, is likely a combination of both fact and fiction. Many of the disappearances attributed to the triangle have been debunked or shown to have happened far outside its supposed boundaries. Some ships reported as vanished were later found to have sunk in storms, their loss is tragic but not mysterious. The U.S. Coast Guard and maritime insurance giant Lloyd's of London officially state that the number of incidents within the Bermuda Triangle is no greater than in any other heavily trafficked, storm-prone area of the ocean. They see no mystery, only a collection of unrelated tragedies given a sinister narrative after the fact. And yet, the core cases remain stubbornly unexplained. Flight 19, the USS Cyclops, the Star Ariel. In these instances, the lack of evidence is, in itself, the most compelling evidence that something unusual occurred. The complete absence of wreckage, the failure to find a single body, defies the laws of probability. It is this core of truly baffling events that keeps the legend alive. Ultimately, the power of the Bermuda Triangle may not lie in any external force, but in its reflection of our own internal fears. The ocean is the last great wilderness on our planet. Its depths are less explored than the surface of the moon. It is a realm of immense power and profound mystery, a place that reminds us of our own fragility. The Bermuda Triangle is the focal point for this fear, the fear of the unknown, the fear of being lost, the fear of vanishing without a trace, leaving behind only a question. It is a story we tell ourselves about the limits of our knowledge and the awesome, terrifying power of the natural world. And until every lost ship is found and every last transmission is understood, the Devil's Triangle will continue to hold its secrets, silent and deep, beneath the warm turquoise waters of the Atlantic.